Eastern Ukraine picks up the pieces. The once mighty coal mining industry of Donbass is devastated, and its restoration now lies in the hands of the workers. The full story is coming up. And the man who kick-started space exploration in earnest. We look back at his historic spacewalk 50 years on. Tunisia is mourning the victims of a gun attack at a museum in the capital. The number of those killed has risen to 20, according to the State Foreign Ministry. Tourists from all over the world were among those killed, and half of them were Europeans. The attackers, who were wearing military uniforms, reportedly opened fire at tourists that were getting out of buses. Witnesses say the gunman was shooting at everybody they saw in the street. People hearing the shots scrambled for cover, including those who had already been injured. The gunman got inside the building and took dozens of people hostage in one of the main halls before police forces moved in. Crowds had gathered outside by the time the police and armoured vehicles left the museum. The security forces killed 2 suspected attackers, but up to 3 others are thought to have escaped. Britain and the US had previously warned tourists of possible terrorist attacks and kidnappings when travelling to Tunisia. The country has been rocked by political instability since the revolution in 2011, with many Tunisians having joined the ranks of Islamic State. Some 500 radical jihadists are said to have already come back home. Experts think the attack may have occurred in Tunisia because the nation's close ties with the West could be a reason.
Well, the most likely would be probably Ansar al-Sharia, which is a radical Salafist terrorist group which started in Tunisia shortly after the Tunisian Revolution in January of 2011. It was formed 3 months later, so it very well could be ISIS, it could be Ansar al-Sharia. The bottom line is both these groups are aligned with their philosophy. They're virulently anti-Western and they're radical.
They're helping to fulfill the West's strategic aims of destabilization in the area. And so, but yet their appeal rests on the idea of being anti-Western. From time to time, they have to kill some Europeans and some Westerners in order to maintain this facade of somehow being opposed to the West.
We are closely watching the situation in Tunisia, and you can log on to RT.com for all the latest details. All of the updates on the attack are waiting for you there. The Greek Parliament's overwhelming approval of an anti-austerity law has become the latest hurdle in EU-Athens relations. The bloc accuses Greece of acting unilaterally, prompting Greek Prime Minister Alexis Tsipras to fire back.
Is this the Europe we were dreaming of? Is this the Europe we are building? The Europe that, with its choices, has triggered a humanitarian crisis and admits it did so, and then considers the fight to tackle it as a unilateral action? What kind of Europe is this? And whom does it represent?
Well, here's a quick reminder of Syriza's main pre-election promises then. So, restructure huge public debt, tackle poverty with public sector reforms, and fight tax evasion. But Kostas Panayiotakis, he's an author and a professor of sociology at the New York City College of Technology. Now, he believes European creditors are hampering Syriza's efforts to stick to its commitments.
What the Europeans are trying to do now is they are putting enormous pressure on the new government, trying to force it basically to continue the policies that he was elected to reverse. So the new Syriza government has made serious concessions, but it still tries to at least implement some of its program and trying to help alleviate the worse effects of these austerity policies. As a result, partly of the state of the finances, partly of the pressure of the European institutions, it is actually realizing that it's much harder to convince them than we had expected.
While Greece thrashes it out with Berlin, the German public has been driven to action by EU authorities. RT's Anissa Naoué took a look back at the day of rage in Frankfurt.
Toxic cocktail of burning cars, barricades of tires, water cannon and tear gas. All of this in Germany's Frankfurt. Dozens injured, hundreds arrested. It's how anti-austerity or blockupy protesters and police mark the opening of the new building for the European Central Bank. City authorities were bracing for this kind of scenario in advance. Some 10,000 police officers were deployed. That's one officer for every participant expected. Water cannon was used to quell the protesters, and helicopters were put on standby. People entering the city underwent additional security checks, and a no-access zone encircled by barbed wire was set up around the ECB building.
Well, I absolutely disagree with the methods. I think the violence they used just so they're very stupid. In a way, I agree with protesting against the central bank, because every central bank is bad by origin, not just the ECB or their current policy. I think the very nature of a central bank is very damaging to the economy because it's a state monopoly. I think there should be no state monopoly. There should be no central institution that has this power to just print money, because inflation is very bad for the normal people. It's good for the governments because they can afford to have those high debts, but it's bad for everybody else. And, well, I don't think we should burn the building of the ECB. That's useless. It doesn't bring anything. I think we should build a better system.
Well, street rage isn't the only indicator of economic crisis drowning Europe. Indicators are overflowing in places you'd least expect, like the toilet.
After a very short break, we tell you the story of the first ever human spacewalk. Don't go away.